Hi everyone, Kumar Datatrain here with the Meridian Point, and today I'm pleased to introduce you all to Oksana Denesiuk, who is a product and technology transformation leader with over 15 years of experience driving enterprise scale changes across healthcare, high tech, and Fortune 500 companies. As a cybersecurity advocate and an industry speaker, she's presented at over 15 conferences on the intersection of innovation, security, law, and compliance. Originally from Ukraine, Oksana brings a unique perspective on cyber warfare and geopolitical threats, having witnessed the first major conflict where cybersecurity became a critical infrastructure battleground. She's the founder of Innovation Frontier newsletter and serves as a board advisor for Information Systems Security Association. She has a master's in comparative literature, and Oksana really is uniquely qualified in how she combines humanities insight with technical expertise to drive organizational change. So without further ado, let me welcome Oksana to the stage here. Hi, Oksana. It's really great to have you.
Hi, Kumar. Pleasure to be here today. Thank you for inviting me to participate.
Of course. So you mentioned in our last conversation that cybersecurity has become an organizational issue, not just a technical one. Can you walk us through what you mean by that?
Yes, I think now with the current geopolitical challenges and in terms of technology cultures and how modern threats are evolving, especially with AI, companies are becoming more and more aware, not just tech companies, but any companies pretty much, about threats and also about issues with the trust, about customer loyalty. So cybersecurity plays a huge role in all of those. So I think understanding that and also being aware of the threatscape of the current challenges in cybersecurity and evolution related to AI is extremely important, because if we are not evolving, or organizations are not evolving in terms of the use of AI tools, they are staying behind and they're exposing themselves to the threats that are currently evolving.
Interesting. So you're saying that companies that are slow to adopt AI are more vulnerable to cybersecurity threats?
Definitely, yes. It depends on the maturity, organizational maturity. So if certain organizations don't feel like they need to use AI right now, they are weakening their cybersecurity posture.
Can you explain to me? I wasn't aware. I thought these are two separate things. I know AI is a part and parcel of pretty much everything now, but I thought cybersecurity was something sort of uniquely separate, that you just sort of implement the tools and then you're done. Can you explain to me? I'm not really very educated in this. What's the relationship between AI and cybersecurity?
Certainly. I think AI, if you look at it right now, it can be used for pretty much anything. So if organization has certain goals that it's trying to achieve, right, in terms of reaching certain ROI or like sales, whatever, organizations can use those tools, AI tools, to be able to be more efficient in achieving those goals. The same as with bad actors. So if you look at the bad actors now, the ability to use AI tools in terms of the attacks surface and amplifications of those cybersecurity attacks, it made it very easy and also very available for even like single bad actors to use those tools, and hence organizations became more vulnerable, especially those that are not using them to protect themselves or to modernize their architecture and infrastructure.
So you're using AI to protect yourself against bad actors that are using AI.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, interesting, very interesting. And so the companies that don't have AI and rely on just the systems and the people, they're more vulnerable. Is that what you're saying? Okay.
That's correct. Just because they don't understand how those tools work. And it's really about, I guess, maturity in terms of the AI tools, and that impacts cybersecurity posture, because those organizations that are using AI tools even to achieve their day-to-day business goals, they're more likely to also adopt them in the cybersecurity.
Interesting. Okay. So in terms of cybersecurity being an organizational issue, I assume that security in general and cybersecurity in particular is an every person thing, right? It's not. It just doesn't belong to the cybersecurity team.
Definitely.
And how do you implement that kind of change, a culture change across an organization where everyone should be aware of the threats that are out there and how to protect themselves and the company information, the data, things like that?
I think it requires widespread organizational change, and it would require certain things that organization need to implement in terms of training, education of the employee, things that are. I often see when cybersecurity team is siloed or more isolated, right? They don't do enough work in terms of advocacy and change management. And that's a problem, because when you have product team that works on the product delivery or creating products, and they don't understand basic cybersecurity concepts, it means that the features, the products that they are delivering are not protecting customers per se. So it should be organizational goal, and that would require change. So I think training, just making sure that this is communicated through leadership, making sure that the governance, it's a part of the governance process, board is aware about those goals, and just including cybersecurity goals in the organizational goals and making sure they're tracked somehow. I think bringing visibility to that area is extremely important.
Yeah, it seems like everything is a big change initiative these days, right?
That's
Anytime
right.
you
Yes.
want to, because companies have become bigger and bigger and more complex, and the company I'm serving right now, it is siloed. The cybersecurity team is separate, and I see what you're saying as being a problem. It's problematic because the things that people want to build. Cybersecurity is sort of like, it's not top of mind. You're not designing systems to be secure until sometime later. It's like, oh, we got to think about whatever X, Y, or Z, and then it requires some rework or some rethought, and which is wasteful. It takes more time. So it's almost like one of those what do they call it? Non-functional requirements of cybersecurity should be considered something that's an NFR from the very beginning. Like, okay, how will we secure this from cyber threats, whatever it is that we build? So yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me. So speaking of change management, I recall a story that you talked about in our last conversation about you spending 6 months trying to convince a team to adopt a new tool. This team was stuck in manual spreadsheets. They were frustrated, resistant to change. What did that experience teach you about the relationship between technology and human behavior?
That's a great question. So yes, I had this experience working at one of the previous companies, and we were going through a very complex agile transformation involving multiple departments and business units. And I guess my experience was education and bringing issues into the surface, meaning one team, first of all, understanding which team is a driver, right, for this cultural change. Because sometimes when we focus on the change dynamics, we don't really understand who would be able to move this forward in the organization. And sometimes these dynamics are not very explicit. So understanding who has that ability. In that particular case, it was a release team that was managing releases across multiple business units. Very small team, but extremely powerful. So it was maybe like 6 people in the entire team. And the dynamic was that they would do all this manual work, and they would work basically day and night during the release. And it would be like maybe 6 or 5 days in a row, every release, collecting all the data. They did an outstanding job, and like organization was very grateful for that, obviously. And they had a lot of power because when you have multiple business units and collecting features across multiple releases, up to 300, 400 features in the large organization, and I'm talking about Fortune 500 companies, right? You have immense power because you own the information. You have all the information, and also you are able to provide updates to the executive team, to everyone, basically. So when we started adopting this new tool, the team just didn't know how to use this tool. So it took me probably 6 months just to come every week to have this meeting with them and be open to answer any questions. And we did the training, so we went through the multiple iterations of addressing their questions. And first, the team was very confrontational because they just didn't know what they didn't know. And explicitly stating that they don't know how to use the tool, I guess that was not an option. So it took us some time to get there and also do a training. But it also saved a lot of time for the team to use the automated process later on, and it benefited them. The team gained new skills, and after 6 months, they actually invited me to facilitate their offsite. So that was very gratifying experience for me because I was able not only to adopt this new tool and move forward the transformation, but also build trust with the team. So they were trusting me enough to basically facilitate the offsite and some of the team, leadership and team building exercises as well.
Very cool. Although one thing comes to mind, it seems like this team had all this power and influence. They were also a choke point, right? Because everything has to go through them for release, and releasing 300 or 400 features is a huge job. And I imagine this organization wasn't releasing all that frequently. Is that true?
Yes. During that agile transformation, sorry, just to explain, we were trying to move to iterative releases, but we were just not there yet. And actually adopting this tool and automating it would help us to move more to the incremental releases. So that was one of the goals.
That's great. So that's good to hear. So you didn't just adopt the tool for the sake of the tool. It led to other changes later that allowed you to release more frequently and gain benefits from that as well, right? You don't have to wait 6 months to release 800 features. Right. You can release 50 features every other day if you wanted to.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. That's great. So with this experience behind you, how do you approach change management differently now?
Great question. I think change management is one of the most difficult tasks, especially looking from the leadership standpoint, but also when you're coming as a consultant. I think first of all, what you need to be mindful of is coming in and asking right questions, identifying pain points, because it doesn't matter what change you're trying to make. What matters is really how you can help organization, right, to improve. So every organization has pain points, every team has pain points, and helping them to address those pain points and bring them to the better, more efficient process that will result eventually in, increasing efficiency and reaching organizational goals and, increasing shareholders' value and all of that, right? I think that's a very important task, just being in tune with the issues that team has, not coming and forcing this process on the team, because that never goes well.
Yeah. And I suppose with your background, your educational background and your technical background, it positions you kind of uniquely because you have both the people side of things, with your master's in literature and your focus on humanities and how and behavior of people, right? But also the technical side of things. I mean, as a cybersecurity expert, you're trying to blend all of these different technologies and tools, and more importantly, how the humans are going to deploy them, employ them, use them for the benefit of the organization. So that's you don't find that type of meshing of skills too often. Someone that's a real deep technologist and also a really good people person. So I met one.
Thank you, thank
Which is,
you.
I think I've known a few over my career that are really good technologists, but when they are, they're kind of nerds. They don't really interact well with the people. It's just, you got to do this, and they don't excel at the role of change management, at the role of people relationship building and things like that. But there are a few out there, and I met them, and that's great that you're one of them.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I think it's extremely important to, especially now, as you mentioned, with the complex systems and more complex organizations, have the system level view. And I think I was blessed enough in my life that my education and also my work experience in different areas, it gave me that opportunity to have expertise in different areas and be able to have that system level view where you can see issues in different areas because of your expertise, and you are able to interpret it to the different categories of people, different teams speaking their language. And I think that was probably one of my strong points in terms of my career, where I would be able to come into the organization and speak to the sales team, speak to the engineering team, speak to the product management team, and convey different points of view, bringing them to the same page. And this
Yeah.
has been very valuable, I think, for me.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think it's valuable for the organizations too that worked with you because it gave them a perspective that maybe they didn't see. I think a lot of companies, especially large firms today, there's a lack of information flow through the organization, right? So that the systems view that you're talking about, the systems thinking, is I think some people in the organization may have it, but a lot of people don't, right? They're sort of in their silo, that's their world, and they don't really care or know about or care about anything that's happening outside their part of the system. And so they're optimizing their part of the system without realizing that optimizing their part of the system isn't necessarily going to optimize the whole, all of the
Right.
system.
Exactly,
Right?
exactly. And even with the different departments, if you look at the legal department, their assessment of risks is very different from what you see in the engineering. And working in the regulated environment in the healthcare, I've been able to observe some of the situation where you see that legal team, they are extremely risk averse, and rightly so, right? Because
Yeah.
they have fiduciary duty to protect the organization, but also from the engineering standpoint, you need to consider certain risks to be able to develop products that would be serving the members
Hmm.
and the customers, right? So having these in-depth conversations when you understand different points of views and is able to convey and have a negotiation or discussion about the risks using your critical thinking, I think that's extremely valuable.
Yeah, for sure. So in your travels, I suspect that there are certain people in the organization that you have an affinity for. These are the movers and shakers, the ones that understand the system view, right? How do you identify these catalysts, if you will, inside of a company?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think you just observe, and very often when people come up in the conversations in the different departments and they would mention certain person, you know that that person is valuable because they would be very influential in different departments. So they play this system thinker role, and are able to influence multiple business units. And I'm not talking just from the leadership standpoint, it's
Yeah,
more functional, right? When you
sure.
see someone who is able to fix issues and is able to deliver, and, team members are talking about them in different departments, you know that that's a catalyst, probably.
Yeah, I think I see the same things. I'm like you. I'm in the transformation space, but unlike you, I'm not as technical. I haven't been technical for a long, long time. So I'm not that rare. There's lots of people like me that are really good on the people side, but technically not as proficient as you are. So, but like you, I observe, I look for the people that think in a more systems view. They take a more systems view, and regard their work. And so those are the people that I try to coach and develop a relationship with. And ultimately, they're going to be the ones that are going to disrupt the status quo, the way things are done around here, right? Even though
Right.
they may be the way things have been done around here or there, wherever, for a long time, they may not be the right way to do things around here anymore, especially given the state of technology and the rapid pace of change that we're all experiencing.
Exactly.
Right. So I want to shift to Ukraine, your home country. You've observed the first war where cybersecurity became a major battlefield, right? Attacks on grids, infrastructure, state-level systems. What lessons from this cyber warfare should U.S. companies and government agencies be paying attention to right now?
Great question. I think being prepared on the cybersecurity front, protecting the infrastructure, um, just knowing the vulnerabilities and risks, right? And I mean, we are doing monitoring for state actors. I know that U.S. does it. Every state should do it because
Hmm.
I think it's important in our days, like an age, looking at Ukraine and like other potential conflicts, understanding that cybersecurity warfare it's going to be uh, one of the war fronts, definitely moving forward. So
Mm-hmm.
just understanding that and also being ready from the infrastructure standpoint to support, any efforts and protect infrastructure.
Yeah. I suppose, going back to something you said earlier about any bad actor having access to AI makes cyber attacks more commoditized, right? I mean, anyone can do it.
Exactly.
Anyone can be a bad actor.
Yes.
Um, can you maybe go back and just explain to me and the audience, what should companies be aware of in terms of these bad actors, these people that have AI, and the importance of using AI to detect this? Because
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's part of, I think that may be part of companies being more aware of these threats that are out there. I think it's important, but maybe I'm wrong.
No, I agree with you. I think my observations in terms of companies adopting AI and just in general how they are adopting it, right? And let me just step out for a second because looking at the AI regulatory and governance landscape is extremely fragmented. So if we know that there are certain like cybersecurity frameworks like Zero Trust or NIST or you name it, right? There are so many of them. For AI, the landscape is fragmented. There are EU AI frameworks that can be used here in US. I think EU is more has more consolidated governance, and they issue
Mm,
more regulatory guidance in terms of the use of AI, which is awesome. I feel like that's a good path in terms of getting some guidance at least, especially for companies or even for the governments. In US, I think there is a federal regulatory field, but also there are states, and I know California they issued some of the guidelines, especially in terms of the use of LLMs. It's
mm,
the frontier law that was recently issued with regards to companies that are actually large. That are creating like OpenAI and all of these large
okay.
companies like Meta, right? That
Hmm.
have their own LLM, so they have high impact. And there was a guidance actually issued from California, but again, the landscape is very fragmented. So I think going back to specific guidance, having AI council, so the leadership who gets together and have an understanding on why we want to use AI, how we want to use AI, what are the risks that are associated with using AI for our specific company, and what is the roadmap, right? And what we want to track. Like how we're gonna track model drifts if we are using any AI models within our organization. What are the specific basically OQRs or specific metrics that we are
Mm-hmm.
using to track those goals,
Mm-hmm.
how we are tracking risks, what is the risk appetite. I think that's extremely important, and how it's communicated to the board, because that's gonna reflect on the risk, on our risks for the organization. And I think in that AI council, probably it would be great if there will be CTO, legal, head of legal,
Mm-hmm.
CFO, probably people who are responsible executive suite, but maybe someone who is in the execution, like executive directors and people who are actually working on the products. So having those internal conversations with CISO, who should be a part of that council as well, not having one person who makes the decisions. Because what I've seen right now, and when I was attending multiple conferences, sometimes conversations between CISO, who is basically putting themselves in the position to handle these risks by themselves and saying, oh, we're going to do this, or we're not going to do this. This is a very risky situation to be in.
Yeah. So CISO, for those of you who don't know what that means, is the Chief Information Security Officer, right?
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. One thing we haven't covered is the insider threats, right? So and when we did talk about culture before, that security should be everyone's concern. How much of cybersecurity is really about organizational culture and employee engagement versus technical controls, or is there a balance there?
I think there is a balance. I feel like culture always plays more important role. If you have disgruntled employees, if you have someone, if you have, if you don't have check and balances, um, or if you have poor management, that will contribute to heightened insider threats, because we're all humans, right? Even if
Yeah.
you look at the aviation industry, most of the, if you look at the air crash investigations, like
Mm,
that was one of the things that I was interested in watching, because it's a very complex system, and when something goes wrong, like you
right.
want to understand like why it went wrong. Most of those air crash investigations and issues are people errors, which
Right.
is
Right.
very interesting, right? You would think it would be technical, but it's really people errors. So,
Mm,
someone didn't do proper technical checks or didn't follow a
hmm.
checklist and things like that. So I think that's where culture plays a huge role. I feel
Yeah,
like.
I agree. I mean, you can't have one without the other, right? If you have a poor
Yes,
culture and you have a bunch of technical controls, it's
yes,
not necessarily going to catch everything because people are disengaged or not happy.
right.
Insider threats may end up dooming the company as a whole. So yeah, really good point. So I thought we could end us with some short, rapid fire questions just to quiz you. And of course, make it a little bit more fun. So first one, what's the best cybersecurity practice most organizations ignore?
I think having organization-wide conversations about cybersecurity, having advocates, right? Having those movers and shakers in different teams who would be able to bring these conversations to the surface and ask right questions.
Okay, so really just sort of seeding the organization with these advocates for
Exactly.
cybersecurity. I like that. Um, a book every leader should read about security or transformation.
Oh, that's a good one. I need to think about that. I'm probably gonna get back to you on this one. I read a lot of books, to be honest, and last one that I read, I'm actually reading it now, and it's not about cybersecurity, but it's more about systems thinking.
Okay.
It's a book that wrote Charlie Munger. He is a
Oh,
great
yeah.
investor, and he worked with Warren Buffett for a long
Yep.
time. And it's called Poor Charlie's Almanac. I
Uh-huh.
love the book because it's about systems thinking and
Ah,
how he basically transitioned from being an attorney to being an investor,
yeah.
and what are the different forces that influencing dynamics, and what are also our common mistakes in terms of critical thinking. So I really enjoy that book. I recommend it not just to cybersecurity or technical experts, but for someone who is interested in developing their mind. Just having that system level view, I think that that's an amazing book.
Very nice. I'm definitely going to take a look at that and maybe add it to my book list. Um, let's see. One overhyped security trend right now.
Great point. I think the zero trust concept is abused and overused as a buzzword because it means different things for different organizations. So when you say the term, be very specific what it means, and also try to understand for a specific organization, just like with any transformation, right? What it would mean, like how we're going to implement it, what it would mean specifically for our organization.
Hmm. What is zero trust? I've heard it, but I don't really know what it means.
So basically, it's assuming that no one can be trusted, no
Uh,
like person can be trusted, no system can be trusted, and everything should go through checks and balances. So
okay.
just in the wide kind of wide understanding frame of understanding of the term.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Coffee or tea? What's your favorite beverage of choice, or something else?
Uh, I love coffee. I love
Coffee.
cappuccinos. Yeah. So I just visited Italy and I love
Uh,
their coffee. So
yeah. Yeah. They're Italian. Italy Italian coffee is great. I think it's probably the best. But yeah. Your go-to strategy when facing executives resistant to change.
okay, trying to understand why. So
Yeah.
I think asking those questions, um, why, right? This is very important because when you work with someone, executive or just a team, understanding their resistance points, and sometimes people would not share. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, when you're going through transformation, many teams and specific individuals they have their own fears, and I feel like it's also part of a good culture being transparent about those fears and being proactive about addressing them
Yeah.
and creating a safe environment. So understanding why would be my go-to.
All right. Wonderful. So last question. How can people reach you for advice, for consultation, maybe to find out more about your newsletter?
Oh, thank you. Yes, my LinkedIn. So just go to my LinkedIn profile. I am there, and I would be happy to answer. I also have my newsletter, Innovation Frontier, and people can go and sign up for it on the LinkedIn.
Okay, wonderful. So we'll include those links in the show notes for this episode. So if you're watching, please visit LinkedIn and visit Oksana's profile, and you will find all that information that she just mentioned there. And do you have anything that I didn't ask that you'd like to share?
I guess right now, what I wanted to share is just continue educating yourself. I hear a lot from the product managers, from the cybersecurity experts that with AI, the market, is not as good. The job market, there are a lot of layoffs. But if you continue educating yourself, especially in that system level view, having critical thinking, understanding the tools, you're always going to be irreplaceable. So understanding that and also continuing your education, it's a lifelong process. So I
Yeah,
highly recommend that for everyone. Reading,
yeah,
expanding your mind, and just be open to new ideas.
yeah. That's great advice in today's world where technology is changing so rapidly that you have to stay on the cutting edge. You've got to keep educating yourself to stay relevant. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Oksana, and for all of you that are watching. Please like, subscribe, share this channel. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn, and we're on all major podcast outlets. So Love your support, and thank you so much for watching or listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you, Kumar.
You're
Bye-bye.
welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.